everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Startuprad.io, your podcast show with startup news and interviews from Germany.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is once again Jörn from Startuprad.io, your startup podcast with news, interviews and live streams from Germany. Again, we are here for our first news wrap up of 2018. It's already the 6th of February 2018 and Chris is here as well.
Yes, and today not in Germany, but not in New York, but in good old Germany in my old childhood bedroom. So it's
we can tell from the sound.
Yes, there you go. Yes, apologies for that. But apart from that, I'm pumped. So let's get things rolling.
Okay, and honestly, I have to admit I'm in a not to be named hotel room. And actually, if you hear something creaking or so, I had to make myself do with what I got here. Okay, as I said, it's the 6th of February. Chris is smiling because I was just saying something wrong. And this is the first startup news for January 2018. Sponsoring message. Startups.Observer supports this program. Startups Observer is like online dating for startups and investors. It is by far the easiest and most efficient way to research potential investment candidates or look for potential investors. Learn more at startups.observer. And you can, of course, find link on our show notes. Ecosystem, Bitcoin and the bubble assumption. Bloomberg, did Bitcoin just burst? How it compares to history's big bubbles. Policymakers cannot allow speculation on credit in Bitcoin markets. New York Times writes, beyond the Bitcoin bubble, yes, it's driven by greed, but the mania for cryptocurrencies could wind up building something much more important than wealth. Why does it have to be a blockchain? It is getting slow and other solutions can be more sufficient as well, putting the world's money into perspective. Bitcoin versus gold versus money supply from Steemit. So that's everything we recommend to read. Therefore, here, as we recorded, I do believe, let me quickly check the Bitcoin price.
While you're checking this, I have to admit I kind of lost track on all the Bitcoin debates by now. But I mean, on the other hand, it's still even now after the whole crash we've been in the past couple of weeks, it still looks as if the market is way above what it was a year ago or 2 years ago. But obviously, it's a very volatile market.
Yes, and Bitcoin right now in US dollars, it's $7,159 So meaning we even breached the 7,500 below. And there was a sell-off in shares around the world today, but that shouldn't be concerning us too much, right?
Nope, it's not. I think, but I read today a very nice analysis of the flash crash as it was labeled yesterday. And the one key takeaway for me for that was to never check your portfolio on a day where the stock markets make headlines. So be
you
good headlines or bad headlines.
Yeah,
there you go.
You should generally not check on it too frequently because I was like a year ago, I was buying Twitter and everybody said, oh, Twitter, it's almost gone. Will Google buy it or something? I just bought it for below $15. Now it's somewhere around $25. So if you're convinced by it, buy it and hopefully you don't need the money.
Yes. Let's move on to look at German investment opportunities. Because
one more thing, I found a very interesting article on the Next Web because there's a very smart person apparently writing about Bitcoin, and he wrote why a Bitcoin future will always end up in centralization. So the totally different idea from what Bitcoin is preaching. The only ones who have the money and the computing power to keep the current Bitcoin system, as I said, the current Bitcoin system running in the long term are financial institutions. Therefore, the author argues there will end up in a centralization. So basically the banks running Bitcoin again. That would be a little bit frightening for most Bitcoin enthusiasts, right?
Yes, I guess so too. Yeah, but I mean, probably we're looking at that now anyway, and the question of governmental regulation of the whole thing. So we'll see how how that goes in the upcoming months and years ahead, maybe. Yes, but let's be a bit more local, and because we found some information about the status of venture capital in Germany in 2017, we really have to say that Delivery Hero, so I think it's like a seamless clone, maybe. Delivery Hero saved the day for German VC investing, only due to its 998 million euro venture capital investments. Can German startups bolster an 88% growth in total investments last year, up to 4.3 billion euros. German financial newspaper or business newspaper Handelsblatt wrote about this. And we had a list of the largest startup investments in 2017 collected by the German special interest website Deutsche Startups.de. Number one is Delivery Hero, as we just said. Then there is Otto One, which collected 360 million euro in I think it was Series B, maybe, I'm not really sure. Then SoundCloud, $170 million, but SoundCloud still having problems and going a bit back and forth. So probably the investors there are already contemplating whether this was the right call or not. Lampenwelt, which is about lampshades, 120 million euro, and Credit Tech, 110 million euro. And there's a list with even more startups in our show notes. Speaking about German FinTech startups, they raised 716 million euros in 2017, which is being reported by Finance. And one of the last things is that the folks from Finanzchef24 did pull out their calculator, found 74 million in venture capital invested in InsurTech startups in 2017 in Germany, down from 82.4 million. Well, we are not sure if this is a good sign because bad ideas get no more funding, or a bad sign since the overall total number went down. We'll see about that. But I mean, in general, you can't help but realize or remark that 82 million wasn't that much money. And one last thing about the German venture capital scene as a whole: German startups drying up without risk-ready investors who are willing to invest in startups, writes Handelsblatt Global. So there seems to be a bigger trend or framing for the fact that German startups kind of struggle right now anyway. What's your general impression?
What's your general impression is that funding is always hard to come by in Germany, especially if you are not in a well-connected network. So that means if you already know investors before you seriously start your startup, you should be fine. If the idea can be realized at all, you should be fine. But the big trouble is the startups who are not in a big hub, big city, without any contact to potential investors. I think they really do have a hard time. Just take, for example, TeamViewer. Nobody heard about it until the point where they've been bought out for $1 billion US. So that's basically a lot of the stories going on in the German startup scene. It's just full of hidden champions. And by the way, we'll have a few interviews coming up with such hidden champions. My most favorite topic, hubs, Frankfurt. Top cities for entrepreneurs, you're asking? Everybody's talking about Frankfurt, right? As Christian said, special interest site, deutschestartups.de, I would call it a startup blog. The city shows a German record of 57 business formations per 10,000 people. Düsseldorf, number 2, with 50.6. Number 3 is Hamburg with 47.6. And only number 5 comes in Berlin with 44.9 per 10,000 people. Soccer rules, also in Rhine-Main, at least it should. For our American listeners, that's the real football. The DFB, Deutscher Fußballbund, the German Football Association, has a new academy project, the Silicon Valley of Football in Frankfurt. DFB is Deutscher Fußballbund. It is the German Football Association, and they are building a great academy here in lovely Frankfurt. And they want to have startups around it. Going along with that, the world's first investment readiness program for sports startups is launched in Frankfurt. Woo-hoo-hoo! Application deadline, no joke, is April 1st. It's a cooperation between the Bundesliga football team, Eintracht Frankfurt, and Frankfurt's hotspot Tech Quartier. The Rhine-Main-based healthcare company Boehringer Ingelheim doubles its venture fund, right? For exciting biotech startups. You got to see Boehringer Ingelheim. It's one of those very big, very old company-owned businesses. So that means if they are going full in with a venture fund, that's really something that means a lot to the Germans. FinSide is a little bit of a different robo-advisor, writes Gründerszene. They offer a white label software for banks and have grown without external investments and large PR, but still making it in number 26 of the Gründerszene growth ranking with 214% growth last year. That's quite impressive. Hessenschau, the regional news from the local German public broadcaster, has a small video and blog article about why Offenbach, the little neighbor of Frankfurt, is so attractive for startups. So it is not only Frankfurt developing a gravitational pull for startups. Learn more in our article. And there is not only FinTech, but also cybersecurity is big in Rhine-Main. Frankfurt-based cybersecurity startup Link 11 hires former telecom manager as COO. Link 11 offers a cloud-based DDoS, meaning denial of service attack protection, primarily in the German-speaking markets, writes Rhine-Main startup. Then we have Frankfurt-based software company called Accelerate, raises more than 2 million euros venture capital. Congratulations, guys. Their tool Gamma can spot errors in critical IT infrastructure, writes Gründerszene. And Frankfurt's business tax revenue shows that cloud computing and co-location data centers are amongst the strongest growing businesses and taxpayers in the city, reports FAZ. Disclaimer, there is the internet node with the most traffic in the world, located in several locations in the city of Frankfurt. And German fintech wunderkind Naga buys shares in Frankfurt-based Easyfolio. Easyfolio is a robo-advisor, writes special interest website Deutsche Startups. Naga will own 25% with an option of up to 49%, buying shares from current owner, Frankfurt-based private bank Hauck und Aufhäuser. On to important people from our little corner of the world. Nope. It's neither Christian nor me. Congratulations to Max Lahmann, co-founder of Emma. Max has just been awarded one of the Forbes 30 under 30 for retail and e-commerce category in Europe. Check out the link to see one of our top Frankfurt founders and other successful young entrepreneurs in Europe reinventing the way we shop on and off. Whew, that was a lot, wasn't it?
It was a lot. I was just wondering, what is Emma doing? Do you know that?
Emma is a competitor of Casper, the mattresses.
Ah, okay. Sure.
Okay.
Like, who isn't? Okay, well, that was it all about Frankfurt. So I will take care of Hamburg.
Disclaimer, it was not all, but the stuff we found noteworthy. Sorry.
Definitely. Yeah, no, definitely. There's always more when it comes to Frankfurt. So Hamburg, 3 new partners join Hamburg-based startup incubator Hanse Ventures. Gründerszene.de reports about that. Hanse Ventures is already shareholder in startups like PropTech House Gold or the designer platform Rebel. So that's it about Hamburg. But I'm going to go on a bit with our little corner about companies, because we're going to come back to the whole Bitcoin craziness, since the photo company Kodak also published plans about launching a Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency. You would think that, because if you take a closer look at it, it turns out that Kodak coin is not backed by the listed company Kodak, but rather by a small Berlin-based startup called Ride. Ride earns money by charging websites using wrongfully pictures of their clients. And we got the whole scoop or the background about that in our show notes as well.
I do believe they want to use the Kodak name and issue utility tokens just to continue doing that, identify
you see.
pictures.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see whether all those spin-off currencies will survive anyway, because if the whole Bitcoin frenzy now gets a bit slower, then probably they will have be in trouble anyway. But what's not in trouble, and actually one of the backbones of the German economy, always used to be and always will be, is the topic of mobility and the big mobility companies. Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung had an exclusive scoop, I guess a scoop is always exclusive, but had a scoop about the fact that BMW and Mercedes or Daimler are pretty far into planning how to merge their car sharing companies, Car2Go, which is the Daimler one, and Drive Now, the one from BMW. They plan on keeping both brands alive, but sharing the same operation in the background.
Lufthansa's freight arm. Lufthansa Cargo invests in Oregon-based startup Trifleet, writes NGIN Mobility. The cargo arm leads a venture capital round of 10 million euros. The founder is a 20-year-old, a former Thiel fellow who got a scholarship for starting his business idea. And Berlin-based Blacklane, a competitor of Uber, but using high-end cars, like a chauffeur service, the private people who pick you up in a black car. That's why Blacklane raises approximately 40 million US dollars venture capital, writes TechCrunch. And I quote, according to sources, to move into concierge services and expand its services globally. Blacklane is high-end competitor of Uber, think Black Mercedes. Blacklane service is available in more than 50 countries, 250 cities, and over 500 airports worldwide.
So one could argue it's like a taxi company. But anyway.
A high-end taxi company in the future with a concierge service.
Volkswagen is going to build autonomous cars with the Silicon Valley startup Aurora, and they are aiming for 2021 for a market launch. And the interesting thing about Aurora is actually who's behind it, because it's former autonomous driving chiefs from Google, Tesla, and Uber. And Aurora is like one of the hottest companies right now in the future of mobility in the Valley, I think. And it's interesting to see that the German traditional or legacy companies are hopping on that trend. And also the other day, I saw an article about the fact that Bosch and I think it was Daimler are already planning to get their first autonomous cars out there on the German streets.
Actually,
even
I do believe
in 2018.
Oh, I see. I do believe there are already test drives going on by Audi on big Autobahn and German highways overnight.
Oh, okay.
Munich-based online shop Windeln.de, meaning diapers.de, is focused on babies and all you need for them. What a surprise given the name. They are listed but not profitable. Up to 25 million loss. Now they start a program to increase efficiency and profits, writes Gründerszene, and this is combined, unfortunately, with some layoffs. Otto, no, not the truck company, but the former catalog company here in lovely Germany, is getting more and more digital. Now they want to invest 85 million euros venture capital in startups in their own company builder, including startups in logistics, e-commerce, and fintechs, writes Gründerszene.
And that's really a curious case, Otto, because it is one of those companies where you would think that that they shouldn't be around anymore. And we also had Quelle, which translates as the source, and which was the main competitor back in the old days of like catalog warehouses and shipping
Oh,
their
and
goods
don't,
to people.
yeah, and you remember when the big catalogs arrived? There was one
Yes.
from Killer and there was one from Neckermann, who used to be based in Frankfurt. And actually, they had a huge logistics center there. And I just stopped by accident. I do believe a few months ago, and actually there's still the big writing Neckermann on top of this huge building, but actually there's no Neckermann in there anymore. So it's like a memory from the past.
And which catalog was the better one? The one for winter or the one for summer?
Good questions. I
It's a
don't have
very easy
any.
question because
Yeah,
obviously the winter one was better because it had all the Christmas presents and had all the games and toys and everything. And
you're
the summer
cheating.
one and the summer one didn't have that, and I just love that. Anyway, Consumer Electronics Show 2018 CES in Vegas. Byton, a startup from China, is founded by former BMW managers, challenges Tesla, BMW, and others, writes Manager Magazine, because their car will have a touchscreen in the center, should be as easy to use as other smart devices, they claim. Yeah, so I mean, it's a whole market on its own, the autonomous and car startups of China. So
A
yeah,
tradition, the Rocket Internet Corner, and this time pretty small, but as long as I'm doing startup news with Christian, there has to be a Rocket Internet Corner. The online furniture store Home24, Home24 will be rushed to an IPO in summer, writes special interest blog Deutsche Startups.de. Rocket Internet owns 43% of the company, which is currently trimmed for profitability. The numbers we found is the first 9 months, 2017, 195 million euros revenue and 20 million loss. This is the first Rocket IPO candidate this year.
yeah.
And more IPOs, speculations of a potential IPO of Marley Spoon in the
Ah.
US, known as Dinnerly. You ever heard about them?
Or maybe not known, not so known. I don't know.
Oh,
Like, what are they
yeah.
doing?
Are bound after Deutsche Startups writes about it. The blog also calculates that their revenue must have passed 40 million euros in total. The company only confirms 10 million meals delivered with no further details concerning revenue or profit. This is the second Rocket Internet IPO candidate because they also invested in it. And I do believe it has something to do with getting food delivered, but I'm not
Yeah.
100%
What hasn't
sure
these days
about
in the startup
the
world?
special
What
details,
hasn't?
but I gotta admit it's like late in the evening and I'm up since more than 16 hours, so I'm maybe just a little bit tired. Munich-based geodata startup Cluedo has big plans, writes Gründerzene. They just raised 5 million euros venture capital in a pre-IPO. Later this year, they plan to IPO in the first half of 2018 at Toronto Stock Exchange and an ICO as well. Ta-da!
Well done. I like your ad hoc sound effects. It's really good. So,
Yeah, I don't have the board like you have with the sirens, with the New York sirens,
yeah,
but I
not
have to
even,
get it.
not even.
Totally.
There you go. So anyway, food also always a big topic, like we just said with in terms of the food delivery, but also we're also covering food startups a lot here. Germans bought 200 million euros worth of groceries at Amazon in 2017, writes Amazon watchblog.de. So it already seems to be quite a large market, but it's only a sliver of the overall grocery market in Germany, which is usually still dominated by discounters like Aldi or Lidl. Lidl, by the way, struggling in the US, interestingly enough, or premium stores like Rewe, Edeka, which are more closely to what Whole Foods is in the US. Manager Magazine has an extensive article as well about the status of the German grocery market and concerning the coming shift to ordering groceries online. Amazon here is pushing ahead. German players already dampening their delivery service efforts. They should do otherwise, argues the author of that article, then because they now still have the money to get in a good position as well and learn a lot from their recent experiments. German tech blog T3N is a shop observer as well. Amazon Go needs more employees, 4 for fresh food, 2 to refill shelves, 1 at checkout, which means 7 in total per shift. Then 7-Eleven, which only needs 3 per shift. So don't forget that there's also a much larger back office for Amazon Go as well. So interesting numbers there. Further information in the show notes. Interim's financing bust, now from A to B, filed for insolvency, writes Deutsche Startups.de. The Aachen-based startup wanted to calculate the best way to travel between 2 places, including flights, trains, ride-sharing, long-distance buses. So from A to B is gone as well. Better
And
news. You go ahead.
Berlin-based FanMice raises venture capital in a down round, meaning the valuation they got was this time lower than the VC round before. The valuation was plummeting from 30 million euros to 4 million euros, writes Gründerszene. FanMice is also known for receiving investment from famous German football players like Philipp Lahm.
So, okay, actually, I kind of oversold this because I said it's better news. Anyway.
It's a little bit better than insolvency.
There's still some money. It's true. Creditec, which has an assumed valuation of 300 plus million euros, is Germany's most valuable fintech, is not doing well, reports Gründerszene. According to press reports, they collected the startup generated losses of 114 million euros in just 24 months. Also, their CFO is about to leave. Usually also not a good sign. Gründerszene writes that the revenue growth is pretty small compared to the invested sums they deduce from the losses. So we'll keep an eye on the fintech for you guys as well.
UK-based private equity fund Capital D invests in Berlin-based e-commerce specialist Invincible Brands with an, I quote, 8-digit amount for the internationalization and gets a majority stake in it, writes Gründerszene. Online shop for glasses, Brille24, buys Lens Spirit, an online shop for contact lenses, writes Deutsche Startup, another attack on the market leaders online and offline. And our friends from Berlin-based fintech startup Penta accuses Transferwise to have stolen its credit card branding rights, eustartups.com. You can learn more about Get Penta in our interview with Luca, and today they announced that they raised 2.2 million, I think, euros capital, venture capital, which was in globally exclusive reported by TechCrunch and in Germany by Gründerszene.
I use Transferwise. They have a nice branding. So anyway, Berlin-based startup Otto gets $554 million venture capital from SoftBank. After that, Otto is valued at 2.9 billion euros, writes the German version of Wired. Yeah, it's really, really big. And I think I'm not 100% sure. I just recently did a very brief article about them. I think their trick is that they also do, they take your car, put it into a better shape and put it on the website themselves. So they they're in a huge part of the reselling process. Bigger than what you would, it's bigger than, for example, what you would do at eBay. So anyway, let's move on.
Handelsblatt has a great article in German about risk in 2018. Noteworthy for us, and here, taking down one cloud service provider could lead to an economic damage of 50 to 120 billion US dollars. That is approximately the economical damage of a hurricane like Sandy or Katrina. Also, the World Economic Forum has its annual risk report. Cybersecurity and cyber threats are pretty high on their list. And we got through the news. Events and competitions now. We are media partners of Startupjobsfair.co on May 25th in Berlin. Get your ticket now on your way to hunt for a startup job. We will be media partner of Arctic 15, the startup event of Arctic startups in Helsinki on May 30th to 31st for Arctic and Baltic startups. The topic is real returns on investment, Arctic 15. And Accelerator Frankfurt, an independent accelerator program, has opened its application for the next batch. They will start on March 12th. Disclaimer: their application deadline will close end of February, so you should hurry when you listen to this. In the past, international companies from countries like Korea, Finland, and Israel have been in the 4-month program to look in the German market and get their business started there in lovely Frankfurt. And what's really special about it, it's founded by an Israeli guy, a Finnish lady, and they offer you the opportunity to scout the German market without being there present full time. So that means you only have to fly in like for 1 week a month in total. That's pretty awesome. And we have, of course, stay ahead of the curve. We have a few articles here for you, especially if you're considering to join very late the ICO madness. The SEC has the munchies eating away the utility token theory, writes the Venture Alley. We are in the most dangerous period of the business cycle, is one of the articles, and how a 22-year-old German discovered the worst chip flaw in history by Bloomberg. It is in here because the person in question is a German and he works for Google in Berlin. That was the big chip flaw everybody was talking about. You heard about it, Chris, I assume?
Yes, I did. I didn't know I was supposed to react to that. Yes.
Awesome. So let's close our recording for today. Remember, guys, sharing is caring. And Christian and I will be back next month for
in our usual spots, hopefully.
In our usual spots, at the usual time, meaning very close to the end of the month and not in the beginning in the first week of the next month. Stay tuned and keep in mind, sharing is caring. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Tschüss.
Tschüss. Auf Wiedersehen.